All right, 8 things that intelligent, successful, wily lifters do before squatting heavy. Plus, stick around for the end, 2 bonus tips that you just might not often think about. Number 1, grip, and this is going to have 4 sub-tips that go along with it. A, make sure that your grip is symmetrical. You should be using either the score marks on the bar, the knurling marks, the little round circles, or where the knurling starts to mark your grip to keep it consistent every single time. B, it should be as narrow as it can be so that it causes your delts to bunch up behind you, creates a nice tight upper back and bunches up your delts so you got a nice place for that bar to rest. But it also has to be as wide as it needs to be so that you can slide under the bar far enough to get the bar into the right position on your back. C, once you get under the bar, don't let your grip move. Don't let your grip move as you get under the bar. Make sure that it stays stationary. Your grip plays a big role in your ability to get under the middle of the bar, so don't let your grip move. And D, we typically teach and prefer a thumbs on top, relatively neutral wrist position. This ensures that the bar is not going to be supported by the wrist. However, if you can't achieve that position, if you don't have the flexibility, the shoulder flexibility to achieve that position, and that's relatively common, it's not the end of the world, you can bend your wrist, you can allow your thumbs to wrap under the bar, to wrap around the bar, if you will. That is totally acceptable. A lot of people have to do it, but you've got to make darn sure that your wrists are not supporting the weight of the bar. And just to be safe, in this case, I would recommend wearing wrist wraps. Number 2, the bar position. You want to slide under the bar far enough that the bar is sitting below the spine of your scapula. You can just think below your traps, but resting on your delts. This is the lowest stable position that the bar can sit in and not want to move. If it sits any lower than the delts, it's going to want to slide down your back and your hands are going to be left supporting it. That's not a good situation to be in. If it's any higher than that, it's going to want to roll up your back and you're not going to be able to get into that nice leaned over position that we want to get into as we descend into the squat and as we drive our hips back up out of the hole. Now, if you can't achieve that position, if you're older, you don't have that shoulder flexibility, you've had a shoulder injury or something like that, that's not the end of the world. You can position the bar up on the traps in what is commonly referred to as a high bar squat. That's not the end of the world. It's still squatting. You're just not going to be able to lean over quite as much when you squat. Number 3, before you unrack the bar, treat it like it's your first rep. No, you don't get to count it as your first rep, but you need to get tight. Get both of your feet symmetrically directly underneath the bar. Take a breath. We're going to cover breathing and bracing here in a moment, but you need to take a breath. You need to get tight. Stand the bar up under control. Don't be sloppy. Everything that can be set before you unrack the bar that first time should be set. You shouldn't be having to make any adjustments to the bar position or to your grip or anything like that after you've unracked the bar. Take care of all of that. Get tight, get ready before you stand the bar up. Number 4, be efficient with your walkout. In other words, once you've stood the bar up, you don't need to walk back a mile to get set up. The distance of 1 step back with each foot will be sufficient to squat. So simply stand the bar up, take a step back with your right foot, take a step back with your left foot, and then make any small adjustments that you need to make to your stance. Speaking of your stance, number 5, stance. Simply get your heels roughly shoulder width apart and then point your toes out about 30 degrees. This is going to be your stance. It puts you in a real good position to reach back with your hips, to point your chest down at the floor as you shove your knees apart. And when I say apart, I mean that your knees are going to go in the direction of your toes. So forward, yes, but also out. Those toes out at about 30 degrees create nice arrows for your knees to follow. Number 6, focal point. Have one from the moment you start your first rep to the end of your set. Keep staring at that focal point. No, it's not going to be up. You're not going to be looking up. That's old 80s, 90s, bad high school football weight room, bad powerlifting advice. Simply pick a spot out in front of you on the floor, 3 to 6 feet in front of you. This is going to be a good spot to stare at for the rest of your set. Number 7, and we're getting close to the bonus tips here. Before your first rep, your second rep, before every single rep, take a big breath, perform the Valsalva maneuver, and brace hard. We've covered this ad nauseum in other videos, so we're not going to go real in-depth on that here, but you're going to take a big breath. You're going to hold that breath in the back of your throat. You're not going to hold that breath against puffed out cheeks or against your lips or anything like that. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, check out one of the videos or simply say the word hic and hold the CK sound at the end. If you're doing that, you're holding your breath in the back of your throat as you should be, and then tighten your abs, tighten every single muscle in your midsection as if you expect to get punched from every single side at once. Hold those muscles in your trunk tight. You're going to do that all the way down and all the way back up. Lastly, number 8, before we get to the bonus tips, make sure that you either have spotters or safeties. Now, in an ideal world, you would have spotters that you can trust. That is ideal because if you miss a rep, you don't have to go all the way back down and set it on the pins. Instead, at the moment of failure, your spotters are there. You and the spotters take the bar back up, put it in the rack. You don't have to do the whole, unload all the plates, get the bar back up, put the plates back on, all that type of stuff. When you have spotters, you want to have 2 spotters. Don't have that stupid back spotter thing that is idiotic for reasons that we're not going to go into right now. But if you have spotters that you trust, that's ideal. We've got videos on how to do that. However, I realize that not everybody is in a place like Testify where everybody is taught how to spot. We have lots of meets where people spot and stuff like that. So in reality, a lot of people are going to spot with safeties, also known as pins or crash bars, or if you're on a squat stand, they're often referred to as spotter arms. That's great. We've got videos on how to set those, but suffice to say for now, they need to be low enough that you don't run into them on any rep, even a rep where you go a little bit accidentally too low, but they also need to be high enough that they save you from trouble, and that's the real important part. So you need to do a practice fail at some point when you've set up your safeties, at least once in your life, so that you know that if you run into trouble, you can set the bar down on the safeties and do the crawl of shame out safely from underneath. All right, bonus tip number 1, chalk. Yeah, it's not sexy, and you might disagree with me. You might think, hey, this isn't a deadlift, it's not a snatch, it's not a clean. What do I need chalk for? Go out, watch on YouTube, on social media, check out your really big squatters. Guys and gals moving a lot of weight in competition, you're gonna see they chalk up. You do not want, at work weights, you do not want any chance of your hands sliding even 1 fraction of an inch, especially you guys and gals with tight shoulders, where your hands kind of wanna slide out anyway. You've got problems getting your grip in as narrow as you can be. Make sure that you use chalk. Remember, you're not just using chalk for your own grip, or you are using it for your own grip. You're not just using it because of your own moisture, your own natural oils, sweat, stuff like that. You're also using it because other people have probably used the bar before you. So my recommendation is use chalk. You're not going to have to use as much as if you would if you're going to be deadlifting or something like that. Simply just chalk up at the beginning of your workout. You're probably good to go for the squat. And last, bonus tip number 2, your J hooks or your hooks. Man, I don't know what is the problem with some people. Get them set at a reasonable height. So yes, they need to be high enough so that you're not having to stand 6 inches up or something like that. But at the same time, remember, the top couple inches of your squat, the unracking portion, that is the easiest part of the squat. And it is far better to have your hooks a little bit on the low side than a little bit on the high side. Because the last thing that you want to have happen is when you unrack the bar to catch the edge of one or both of those J hooks and end up falling backwards. You also don't want to finish a set at the end and then have to do a calf raise to get the thing back in when you're real exhausted. Guys, there is no gal at the gym who's looking at you thinking, ooh man, that guy's got some nice high J hooks there, I bet, man oh man. And if she is, you don't want that kind of crazy in your life. So set your J hooks at a reasonable height. When in doubt, err on the low side. As always, we hope this helps you get stronger and live better.